Hi everyone, this is Sheila Shaffie and welcome back to another episode by ProcessArc. First of all, I just wanted to apologize to all of you out there that have been watching my videos because you've probably noticed that I've been a little bit less than consistent in getting these videos out on Wednesdays. My apologies, it's just been quite hectic at the firm and my attention has been elsewhere, but I do love doing these videos and I'm grateful for the subscribers and the people who watch them. I'm going to do my best to get back onto my schedule, so I'm grateful for your patience. So let's get back to today's topic, which is all about repositioning yourself if you already have the Lean Six Sigma certification or are thinking about getting the certification and thinking, what other doors could it open for me? So if you ever considered figuring out how to find or how to join the hottest trends in the industry, if you've thought about how do I actually become part of innovation and the cutting edge and hopefully increase my salary, then stick around because I'm going to talk about the hottest job market trends that would perfectly align with your Lean Six Sigma certification and work experience, and within those trends, what specific roles you can apply for. So some of you may already have the Lean Six Sigma certification and you've been part of a quality role or a transformation organization or initiative, and you are very good at the skill sets of problem solving, critical thinking, process thinking, and over time you've become comfortable with using data. Well, those skill sets are going to position you for some of the hottest job market trends that are happening today. And having the Lean Six Sigma certification, if you watch some of my earlier videos that I will link above, will allow you to join or find an opportunity rather in one of these four top trends. And the four opportunities are robotics process automation, data and analytics, user experience design, and agile transformation. In today's video, I'm just going to focus on the top two, robotics and data analytics, what exactly is happening in the industry with those two topics, and the types of roles that you can apply for within that space that, again, perfectly aligns with the skill set that you've been honing with your Lean Six Sigma practice. Now, some of you may have heard about robotic process automation, otherwise known as RPA. Some people call them bot implementations. But essentially, robotic process automation at its simplest form is focused on taking high volume, highly repetitive, very manual tasks within a process and automating that through robotics. So technically speaking, RPA is the last strategy that an organization should be deploying in automating and simplifying a process if they have exhausted their re-engineering opportunities and they've come to a point where they realize that in order to actually get to the next level, some of the core systems and infrastructure needs to be re-engineered, and that simply is too expensive for them to pursue. So robotics becomes an option. And again, I've done an entire video on what RPA is all about. I'll link it above, and exactly how to deploy this strategy within your organization. But in today's video, the entire focus is on what specific types of roles can you apply for or identify or reposition yourself for within the space of robotics. Now, there are three big players in this space. There are other ones as well, of course, but the three that most companies are gravitating towards, which then creates the job opportunities, are Blue Prism, Automation Anywhere, and UiPath. And luckily for all of us, each of these organizations have their own unique universities so that you can, one, read case studies so you can become more familiar with the vernacular, the language, and the application of this technology, because you kind of have to do that anyway if you're going to start pivoting into that space. But then if you wanted to actually learn to do some of the coding and implementation of bots, you can also get the certification and the required training there as well. But that's not a requirement at all. Knowing how to implement the bots is certainly not a requirement for you if you decided to pivot into that space. And that's because there are three distinct roles in RPA implementation in an organization that decides that they want to pursue robotic process automation. And there's two that kind of essentially bookend the coding piece. So the coding is not what I'm going to be talking about. That requires a whole other set of upskilling and training. I'm going to focus on the bookends where you could essentially, using your Lean Six Sigma or process engineering, thinking and talent, to kind of slip right into. So on one end of the spectrum, you've got RPA process engineer. So that's a specific role within the RPA implementation space. And an RPA process engineer is focused on identifying where there's an opportunity, what part of the process is not working, and making sure that it's the ideal candidate for implementation of a robot. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got the production engineer, who is more focused on, once the design has been built, once the robotic process engineer identified the opportunity, designed it so that it can be automated, and defined all the requirements for it to become a seamless, efficient process, it gets handed over to a solution architect who actually codes and develops, tests, and puts the bot into use. And then the production engineer takes over. And the production engineer simply is responsible for making sure that there are processes and protocols in place to make sure that the bot is performing as it's supposed to, and that if there are issues, it's identified, and that there's a feedback loop to the architect to make sure that they're addressed. So they're more involved in the governance and the control of the robot. So again, the two ends of the robotics implementation are the perfect opportunities for someone who already has or is thinking about getting a Lean Six Sigma certification, because its entire focus is on process thinking, problem solving, and creating seamless operations within an organization. So with RPA out of the way, let's now pivot to data and analytics. So when you think about data and analytics, split it up in two pieces in your mind. One side is predominantly focused on the infrastructure and the storage of the data, and probably a good chunk of the industry effort has actually been on that side of the equation of, do we have structured, semi-structured, or unstructured data? Where are we going to house this data? Are we going to create a data lake? What are all the sources of the data that we need to compile and store? How do we structure the data in a way that we could actually make sense of it? So that's very much of a technology, IT-related types of tasks and systems that need to be identified. And if you're into that stuff, fabulous. You will have to go and get additional training around essentially SQL, data warehouses, databases, maybe even get Microsoft Azure certification to know actually how to store the data and create relational databases. But I'm going to keep that side of the house out of the equation because it's not exactly a good fit, or an immediate fit rather, if you have the Lean Six Sigma certification or training. The other side of the equation to data and analytics is actually figuring out what to do with the data, what to measure, and once the measurements and the indicators have been defined, how do you actually operationalize them and get the organization to take the kinds of actions you need in order to drive the business in the direction that you want? Because measuring things for the sake of measurement is really not going to change behavior, nor is it going to improve your operational or financial performance. So there is definitely a technical piece to this, but also a cultural piece, which Lean Six Sigma people will very much know how to handle, identify, and resolve, because it's all about change management. And by the way, if you don't have Lean Six Sigma training, I don't want to discount any of your capabilities out there. This video is predominantly focused on folks that have the certification. So if you are well skilled in change management, or if you think of yourself as someone who's a great process thinker and someone who's very comfortable with data, please put yourself in the same bucket. It is it would be my pleasure to help you in any way that's possible. I'm just trying to help everybody that's listening to this video figure out how to become the best possible advocate for themselves to capitalize on the skill set that you have. So within the space of the what to do with the data and what to measure, of course, there are people known as data scientists, data engineers, and data architects that are still more focused on programming. So these are the folks that know how to do SQL coding or Python coding. And again, those folks, if you're interested in learning how to do Python and SQL coding, power to you. Let's focus on another dimension of data analytics that it would be perfect if you're a process thinker and comfortable with data. And there's 3 roles in that space that I want to talk about. The first role is data analytics consultant. Second one is operational analyst. And the third is data and analytics strategist. All of these 3 roles predominantly focus on how does the process work today? What data are we collecting from that process that is reliable and meaningful? How do we take that data and come up with meaningful measurements? How do those measurements tie to the strategic direction of the organization? And is there data that we can use today to do predictive analytics to help us understand what may be coming at us next? So these, I know I've oversimplified it, but fundamentally that's what those 3 roles are trying to figure out. What is good to measure? How do I measure it? Where is the data? Which processes should we focus on? And how do we make sure that that data actually aligns to our strategic direction of the initiative? So anyone who's comfortable with process thinking, data analysis, problem solving is a perfect fit for any of those 3 roles. So that's it for today. My intention was to help you figure out how to capitalize on something that you already have to reposition yourself for some of the emerging trends that are in the marketplace today. One, so you can actually hopefully make more money, but to also continue to stay relevant within the marketplace. Now, next week's video is going to be focused on a different topic. And then the following week after that, I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into the other 2 job opportunities around user experience design and agile transformation. I would love to hear your thoughts. If there are other ways that you have repositioned yourself, having the toolkit and the certification of Lean Six Sigma, I would love to hear about it. I want to know how people are leveraging what they've got, essentially, again, to stay relevant and enjoy the fruits of their labor. I'm grateful you joined me today. Thank you so very much. Again, if you like topics like this, problem solving, innovation, and critical thinking, please don't forget to subscribe. It means a great deal to me. Thank you, and see you again next week.